A-Level Film Studies is a linear A-Level following the EDUCAS Exam Board specification. The course is comprised of 3 components. Component 1 and 2 are both examined at the end of Year 13 and make up 70% of the overall qualification. For these components, we would study a number of films set by the exam board. We would look at a whole range of areas of film, including the core components like cinematography, mise-en-scène and sound, which make up film, as well as their context and the meanings that are generated. We'd also look at things like narrative, spectatorship and history of film. Component 3 makes up the remaining 30% of the qualification and is non-examined assessment. This is a creative unit which allows you to oversee the making of a film project from start to finish, the designing, the planning, and then eventually the creative work as well. This would be evaluated and would be marked internally and moderated externally. Someone looking to take film studies needs to be really clear that it's not just about watching films. Particularly not just mainstream films or the ones that are typically most popular. There is an awful lot of films that we'll study that are really varied and really different. Its nearest neighbour in terms of its style is English literature, because all of the questions are essay-based that you'll sit in the exam, between 20 and 40 marks. So prospective students should be really confident in their written skills of analysis. As such, we ask that students have at least a 5 in English, particularly English literature, because as I've said, there is a lot of crossover. There isn't a requirement for you to have studied GCSE film at all. However, you should be somebody who is really keen in watching films and exploring and analysing the meaning that is made through films. Particularly, as I've said, different styles of films, not just modern films, but also historical film too. You're also going to be somebody who's interested in history and society and in some of the global context that we have at the moment. We also look at issues of politics and particularly the turbulence in America. It's quite timely at the moment, but what's the impact of that political turbulence in the country that is most famous for making films? We look at issues of racial and gender representation. The list really does go on. So you must have an inquiring mind and you must want to question the world that's around you. Typically, students who study film tend to study it alongside English literature, alongside sociology, alongside history, because there is a lot of content and style crossover there, particularly with history. We study some of the same units, the same historical contexts are present in our films as present in the history course. In terms of what you could go on to do next, again, the opportunities are quite wide. You don't just have to take film studies and think that you're destined for a career in film. There are some really clear pathways within the film industry for you, and there is actually a skill shortage in the UK at the moment in terms of industry. And not just the things you might think. There's a lot of areas that need developing in construction, in accountancy, in kind of the development of costume and sets and all those sorts of things that are needed. So it's not just the obvious like directing and acting. There's also careers that could lead to in things like journalism, things like writing about film. There's so many options that lead to this, and universities really like it because it shows that you are somebody who can analyse well, somebody that's got a really strong understanding of the world around you and how messages, meaning, lessons are taught through film to the masses. I know I'm biased, but I think there are a huge number of positives to studying film. It is a really enlightening and really exciting course that really does open up your mind. We go right back in time to really early cinema, and we come right up to the modern day. We look at documentary, we look at different types of film from independent to mainstream. There is so much that we cover. So for me, one of the key things that's fantastic about film studies is the variety. If you have studied the GCSE before, this is far greater than that in terms of its breadth and in terms of the areas that we'll get to study, and that's really exciting. Another really key draw for me is the fact that the course is 30% non-examined assessment. So that's essentially 30% in the bag before you walk into the exams at the end of Year 13. And that's a real bonus because it gives you that confidence to know that you've got at least some taken care of before you sit your exams. You also get complete freedom with your NEA. The exam will give you a few key areas that you need to hit, but then in terms of what you want to create, in terms of script writing, making a short film, the opportunities are endless for your content and your style. It's really down to what you enjoy, and so that element of creativity in the course is kind of a real break and a real bonus for a lot of our students.
I chose film studies because I wanted to learn how to analyse films in thorough detail. My favourite things about film study is learning about the production contexts and learning about the history of Hollywood. You should choose film studies because it's a very enjoyable subject, and at the end of year 13 you can make an NEA and a short film.
I'd really recommend film despite not doing it at GCSE level, as it's very similar skills to what you learn in GCSE English, and it's very easy to pick up, and you learn skills that you learn in GCSE while on the A-level course in a much more detailed way.